You've heard of the coming-of-age film, but have you heard of the coming-of-middle-age film? It's time for my midlife crisis review of the midlife crisis movie Drive My Car. It's made for lonely middle-aged men who like to drink whiskey and talk to themselves. They couldn't get the rights to the Beatles song for the film, but it's just as well. The classical and jazz tone works for the film. We shouldn't need a well-known pop song included to make it work. Aiko Ishibashi's soundtrack is perfect, sunny day, go on a ride, chill music. Jazzy, orchestral, and laid back. There's a somber undertone to the whole score. It's totally approachable even outside of its relation to the film. It's an enjoyable listen. Indie rock legend Jim O'Rourke plays a few instruments on there too. The film Drive My Car is directed by Ryusake Hamaguchi and is based on a short story by Haruki Murakami, included in the collection Men Without Women. I read the entire short story sitting in a waiting room at the dentist's office, while the film is 3 hours long, so there's certainly more depth to the characters and story of the film. It does take a few elements from another story in the same collection. In the short story Drive My Car, a middle-aged actor named Yusuke Kofuku gets in trouble for drinking and driving and is diagnosed with glaucoma, so he now requires a chauffeur to drive him around. He explains that his name means House of Good Fortune, which he feels has become ironic. He opens up to her about his life as an actor and Anton Chekhov's play Uncle Vanya, in which he plays the lead role. He reveals that his wife Odo died of cancer and that he knew she was cheating on him with another actor named Takatsuki, but never confronted her about it. After her death, he befriended Takatsuki and would occasionally grab drinks with him in order to understand why his wife cheated without revealing that he knows about the affair. The chauffeur eventually opens up to the man about how she hated her mother before she died in a drunk driving accident. The two characters share a bond for a moment, and the story ends. So how is this translated into a 3-hour film? Well, first of all, the story includes flashbacks to scenes where the wife Oto is alive, which creates a 40-minute intro before the opening credits even start. That's when I knew this one was going to be a long haul. Yet, it's also a joyride. It's loose and meandering with well-acted, lengthy, dramatic scenes that give us a full sense of the characters' mental and emotional states. It's called a road movie, but it's not actually a road trip film like I thought. The characters simply travel back and forth every day on a lengthy drive from home to work, with a few detours along the way. In the book, the man drives a yellow Saab, but in the film, it's a red 900 Turbo, and I think we can all agree red is objectively a sexier color than yellow, right? A lot of this film is comprised of smooth shots of this sexy little car sailing along, accompanied by some light, inoffensive jazz music on a bright and beautiful day. It's a vibe. This film is a vibe. Just check out this clever match edit from the cassette tape to the wheels of the car. The film also peels back the layer behind the middle-aged man drinking his whiskey and driving his sports car, hopefully not at the same time, to reveal his loneliness and longing to communicate. In the film, the lead character not only befriends the younger actor, but decides to cast him as the lead in Uncle Vanya because the role's similarity to his own life is starting to give him panic attacks on stage. The film is framed around all of the efforts to cast and rehearse the play, interwoven with the scenes where Yusuke and his chauffeur, Misaki, travel back and forth between the hotel and the acting studio. The lead character is a lot more handsome than the one in the short story, who is described as balding and wearing a ball cap. We also see more of his cold and stern demeanor in the way that he treats the other actors. There are a series of vignettes with Yusuke and Misaki that are the true essence of the film's drama, while the creation of the play all culminates in an intense discussion between Yusuke and Takatsuki in a bar. Yusuke's wife cheated on him, and he knew, but he never brought it up with her out of the fear that it would end their relationship. He walks in on her fucking another guy and just turns around and leaves. Some people might say this guy is the textbook definition of a cuck. Oh, sorry, wrong picture. That's still the wrong picture. So, in a weird power play, Yusuke hires the guy who turned him into a cuck to replace him as Uncle Vanya. He assumes a mentor position over the young actor. Takatsuki is more fleshed out here than in the short story. He's a big-time hot actor whose career was derailed when he started a relationship with an underage girl. The paparazzi follow him throughout the film. Takatsuki is a mirror character for Yusuke. They both loved the same woman, and are both actors at different stages of their careers. Yusuke has nothing to look forward to. He reenacts the trauma of his wife's death again and again, reading through the lines and hearing her voice while driving the car, which has become a metaphor for his inability to move on with his life. Drive My Car is very much a film about the expectations for men in society to bottle up their emotions instead of dealing with them. The film expresses the tumultuous emotions of its lead, not only through dialogue, but simply by framing wide shots in long takes, such as the shot against the water where Yusuke opens up to his chauffeur. The waves are pounding on his side, providing a sense of his emotional state. The well-lit open space of the workplace is contrasted with the shadowy scenes of more intimate locations such as bedrooms, bars, and the backseat of the car. Misaki is also a mirror character for Yusuke as she refuses to confront the death of her mother, whom she hated. Both characters are introverted and sometimes cold or callous to the people in their lives. The inner conflict and duplicity of the characters is conveyed in shots that utilize mirrors. When Yusuke discovers that his wife is cheating on him, he witnesses her through a mirror. Afterwards, he communicates with her over a computer screen where he is framed through a mirror again. The fact that actors are playing actors playing characters creates a meta-narrative where the tribulations of the characters in Uncle Vanya are reflected in the story of the actors playing the characters. This is a film made for people interested in the theater. If the viewer has no interest in the plays of Anton Chekhov, this film might be a tough sell, as a large portion of the film is about how the actors' lives are reflected in the play. The theme of disconnection is further emphasized in the audition scene, where language barriers play a key role. The lead male and female actors do not speak the same language, but this doesn't stop them from forming an attachment after rehearsals have begun. One of the roles goes to a deaf actor named Lee Yu-na, played by Park Yu-rim, and she gives a really great performance here that shows that deaf actors can play a role not traditionally thought of as being a deaf character. She ends up being the wife of the dramaturge Yoon Soo. She uses sign language to communicate all of her dialogue, which makes for a powerful moment when the actors so completely become their characters that it feels real. Yusuke and Misaki don't have a language barrier. They speak the same language, but they barely communicate on their lengthy rides, where Yusuke repeats the lines of Uncle Vanya over and over again, reliving the trauma of his wife's infidelity and death through the sound of her voice on the tape. There's a scene where Yoon Soo invites Yusuke and the driver over for a meal. Class plays an important role in this scene, as it's normally expected for the driver to wait in the car. Gender is also important here, as Yusuke has some misogynistic leanings when it comes to his view of women. He's very resistant at first to allow Misaki to drive the Saab Turbo 900, which comes to represent his refusal to grieve and move on from the tragedy of Oto's sudden brain hemorrhage. Misaki accompanying Yusuke to dinner is awkward because it feels like it's a setup for a double date, yet neither character is interested in romantic endeavors. Whenever Oto would achieve orgasm, she would become inspired to tell a story, which is taken from a different short story in the Men Without Women collection, titled Scheherazade. The story is about a girl who sneaks into a boy's room several times, one time leaving a tampon behind, later masturbating on his bed. When Yusuke confronts Takatsuki about their shared love for Oto, Takatsuki reveals an ending to the story that Yusuke has never heard, confirming that Oto's relationship with Takatsuki was not a simple fling. It was perhaps on the same level of emotional depth as her relationship to Yusuke. The story ends when an attempted rapist breaks into the house and the girl murders him, making his corpse the item that she leaves behind in the boy's house that day. This dark tale she weaves, imbued with imagery of burgeoning sexuality and violence, feels like a reflection of Oto's regrets about her relationship with Yusuke. Takatsuki's past catches up with him eventually as he beats up a reporter who later dies in the hospital and is arrested for it. It's a little hard to believe that he beats this guy up so severely in such a quick time. He runs off screen for about 18 seconds or so, beats a man to death with his bare hands, and quickly runs back without looking like he was even in a fight. This was just a little weird to me. Yusuke has to take over as Vanya and face his fears. There's an emotional resonance to the final shot of Yusuke performing Vanya silently with Liu Na that suggests perhaps he is now finally able to move on from the past. In the film's epilogue, Misaki is driving around in the car wearing a surgical mask, so this implies that Yusuke has either moved on and sold the car to Misaki, or perhaps he has passed away since the pandemic. The film was originally set in South Korea, but due to COVID, the production was moved to Hiroshima. Given the tragic history of the city, it's a fitting backdrop for an exploration of trauma and grief, similar to the famous film of the French New Wave, Hiroshima Mon Amour. In the English translation of Drive My Car, one of the final lines delivered is, "Those who survive keep thinking about the dead." It's a film about the process of grieving, and its characters can't seem to move past denial. Yusuke finds comfort in nostalgia for the past rather than embracing the future. There's a line from Uncle Vanya that resonates particularly for me, where the character states that he's 47, and if he lives to be 60, he has another 13 years to fill the time and doesn't know what to do with it because he doesn't know how to start over again new. I'm 37. If I live to be 60, that's another 23 years, but my problem is that I'll never have time to experience all of the amazing wonders out there because I'm locked in this room talking to myself. I could have been a Schopenhauer or a Dostoevsky. I could have been a contender instead of a bum, which is what I am. What do I get? A one-way ticket to Palookaville. It was you, Charlie. Drive My Car is a complete package of a film. Great writing, acting, music, cinematography, and editing. Its themes are understated and ripe with a sense of melancholy. My biggest complaint is the 3-hour runtime is going to turn off some audiences. Critics have said that it doesn't feel 3 hours long, but it felt like 3 hours to me. It might not be epic, but it's long. This is a movie made for lonely middle-aged men who love whiskey and jazz. So because of a personal bias, I have to go with at least an 8 out of 10. It's not quite a 9 for me, but it's very close. So I'll leave you today with this. Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star. Beep, 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 yeah. I actually don't own a car. Could I get a ride?